Lesson 4, Unit 7. Monitoring the context. Most development projects operate in dynamic and volatile environments, where change is a constant. Most development countries face uncertainties and risks which make it necessary to monitor all the external factors that can have an impact on the project goals. Most of these factors are outside the control of the project, which increases the need to monitor them. Monitoring the project context focuses on changes that can occur in the social, economic, legal, and political changes in the project context that can have a positive or negative impact. For example, changes in local regulations that may increase the risk to the project, or changes in the economic conditions that may increase the cost of the project. Context monitoring includes the monitoring of the project assumptions and risks that were initially identified in the project and will require a regular review. A tool used to evaluate and monitor the context is the PESTEL analysis. It helps identify the external forces that can have an impact on the project. The letters stand for political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal. This analysis helps identify changes in the macro environment. Projects that successfully monitor and respond to changes in the macro environment are able to manage the impact of those changes. Monitoring the context should be done on a regular basis, especially in environments where the context is dynamic. Political factors. This part of the analysis is concerned with how the policies and actions of the local government can affect the project. Factors to be considered include the level of political stability, the government's attitude with NGOs, and the dominant political ideology. These are some of the questions you need to ask to monitor the political factors and see if there are changes that may affect the project. When is the next election due? How likely is a change of government? And how are the government relationships with NGOs? Economic factors. This part of the analysis is concerned with the overall prospects for the economic increases in prices that can have an impact on the project. Key measures include the levels of inflation and exchange rates, the levels of employment, and wages and price controls. The questions you need to ask to monitor the economic factors and see if there are changes that may affect the project are: how stable is the currency? How are prices increasing? And will salaries also increase? Social factors. The analysis focuses on factors that can affect the target population of the project, the beneficiaries, and other key stakeholders. Depending on the type of project, the factors to be considered in this analysis can include the demographic levels, the health and economic levels, and the perceptions to the project by the communities involved. The questions you need to ask to monitor the social factors and see if there are changes that may affect the project. Are there changes in the demographics of the beneficiaries that may impact the project? For example, an increase in immigrations due to economic problems. Are there any changes in the health and economic levels of the beneficiaries that might limit their participation in the project? Are there any changes in their attitudes towards the project? Technology factors. This part of the analysis is concerned with changes in technology that may affect positively or negatively the implementation of the project. For example, new technologies available to improve the communications with the project. Factors included in the analysis are new technologies, levels of access to the internet, and even costs or regulations that affect the use of internet tools or other communication technologies. Questions to ask to monitor technology factors include: how good is access to the internet in the field? How many people use smartphones? Are there regulations that limit online information? For example, use of internet to help with project communications with key stakeholders and beneficiaries. Environmental factors. This part of the analysis takes into consideration ecological and environmental aspects. Factors included in the analysis are the weather conditions, natural calamities, levels of contamination, both in air and the water, and may include current legislation regarding environmental protection laws or the lack of. Questions to ask to monitor the environment factors include: what are the current environmental regulations and what level of risk with natural calamities? Legal factors. The analysis of the legal factors include the task, regime, and fiscal policies, the legislative and regulatory framework for NGOs, the legislative and regulatory framework for employment, for example, the laws regarding the hiring and firing of staff. These are some of the questions you need to ask to monitor the legal factors and see if there are changes that may affect the project. Are there any changes in current regulations? What new laws are coming? What labor laws can impact the project? A good approach for using the PESTEL analysis is during a session with the team and some key stakeholders. Each factor can be ranked by their level of positive or negative impact to the project. This chart identifies the different factors and ranks them by the level of negative to the left and positive to the right and their impact to the project. It helps focus on those factors that can have a greater impact to the project and gives the project manager a list of priorities to monitor. Monitoring the project context can help identify potential risks and opportunities. These external factors can also be a source of constraints, especially in the legal and economic areas. The responsibility for monitoring these factors can be shared amongst the team and assigned them according to their area of expertise or knowledge.